Hey, this is Mr. Possible coming back to you. Happy Alpaca Day, as I like to call it. I'll tell you more about that later, why I refer to it as Alpaca Day. But again, this is Mr. Possible, proving anything is possible. And that is my goal, to prove it and to show it to you so that others can understand that it's possible. Today, I'm just going to kind of spitball. I don't really have an agenda planned. I just really want to talk about some of the stuff that's going on right now. I feel like the mountain I'm climbing now is taller than I've ever climbed before. I've already talked about previously in the past about my ex-wife and giving up that hate and taking responsibilities for my actions. I've talked about Kiss That Frog, which I think is really a great book. In fact, I dare say the greatest book I've read to date. I think it's more influential, especially chapter 9. So check that out if you're interested. I think that there's like this metamorphosis going on in my life of where I am changing how I look at things, my perspective. For instance, I study a lot of poker stuff, and there's currently a poker scandal going on with cheating. And one of the things that I'm learning to do is try to figure out if I can trust people, or if, what that method would look like. So, and then reflect that back on how I'm viewed. So one of the problems with my current situation is that it's hard for people to distinguish between the words that you speak and other people who are using the same words, but maybe the facts don't back it up. So I was looking at that in a poker situation that I recently have been looking into, and that situation involves cheating in online poker. And I for the first time, really, this is an improvement. If you go back to the test-driven development episode, it's that refactoring stage. It's a refactor of me where I'm looking at, okay, I looked at the one person's side and I looked at the other person's side. And, well, let me stop for a second and tell you a story about when I was much younger. When I was much younger, I always believed the concept that there was no such thing as a villain and a hero, but that each person had their own side and their own viewpoint and their own perception. And so, like, when my parents fought and my mother or father was like, it's their fault and put the blame, my little brain said, there's something from each side that's causing this. So usually what's actually going on is somewhere in the middle. So based upon that concept, it was very hard for me to accept that there are sometimes other forces at play. There is animosity and jealous and these feelings, and people do strike out. So in this particular situation, what I wanted to do was see someone who's being accused of cheating and someone is the accuser of someone cheating. And I didn't want to take a partial stance to, either one. I just wanted to observe their behavior. And I wanted to figure out how that applies to me. So this is part of doing the possible. In order to do the possible and you want people to support you, you have to understand their perception of you. You have to understand how they view you. You have to understand those sorts of things. So I looked at the one guy, and he was very poised, very calm, and in fact answered questions almost spot on the way I would answer them. And then I looked at the other guy, and he was more of a laid back, very carefree individual who had a lot of complaints and, a lot of information that he claimed that this other person was cheating. And at first, when I first heard the guy who was poised and whatever, I was like, wow, this guy can't be lying. And then when I heard the second guy, the evidence that he was suggesting he has is pretty powerful. His storytelling ability was pretty powerful. So then I looked at both of them and I said, I really can't decide which one is telling the truth. And that came to this lesson in my mind, which is just follow the facts. Like if this guy can prove what he's saying, that should be enough as long as the facts are concrete. Just follow the data. And so when I reflected on this and I was like, okay, so this guy whom seems poised, seems at a different place in his life versus this guy. And then I started to reflect and say, wait a minute, maybe this is the way that other people see me as well. So I, talk like this guy did. And maybe they say, well, maybe he's just a very convincing, person. And the evidence, the actual belief in my mind is just show the evidence. So if this guy on this side, no matter what he was like, because that would be an ad hominem to judge the case by the person presenting it, if he in fact has the evidence that backs up his case, I don't care what he is, right? What the presenter is presenting as. And if this guy doesn't have the evidence or does, then I don't care. Now, is it possible that there is some explanation in the middle? Yes, I do believe that's possible. I also believe there's this concept in poker often brought up, and it's happened to me multiple times when I'm at the table. There's this concept and this belief that collusion doesn't happen Okay, let's rewind that. Collusion, which is like people working together, does not happen on a wide scale. In other words, if you're sitting at a table with 10 people and you ask all 10 of them and 9 of them say the same thing and 1 of them says a different thing, the floor or supervisors, the people that run the game, will believe the 9 people. So there is this concept, and it's a false concept, that collusion cannot happen with the majority of people. It's absolutely false. And the reason it's false is because if I'm at a table and I have literally been picking on all 9 people and crushing the table, they have an actual financial and an emotional investment in making sure that whatever happens is not to my benefit. So, and I've seen this over and over again in poker. So at the same time where this guy's being accused of cheating and there are multiple people saying that he did it, there is mass collusion. There is this sense of trying to destroy what another person has. So it's very hard to distinguish who's telling the truth and who's not. But the one thing that doesn't lie are facts. Facts don't lie. When you see the data, when you see the evidence, when you see what's going on, and you back it up, right? And it's very important when you do see the evidence that I take it from my critical thinking brain and process it rather than actually taking someone else's interpretation of it. So that being said, now I can put myself and the other people that have told their perception of what's going on versus my perception and understand how a person who hears those things could say, I don't know which one. So what that tells me is when I'm trying to do the possible, when I'm trying to set forward, when I'm trying to get something done, the focus should not be on me trying to prove it to someone, but rather me just doing it and showing the receipts. So that's what this episode is going to be about. It's about, instead of talking about it, instead of, being like, I'm going to do this, it's awesome, blah, 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 do it and show the receipts. Show the receipts. And sometimes showing the receipts, especially for me, it's something I've learned very recently, can be quite annoying or feel annoying. And when it feels annoying, or as I like to say, I don't do minutia, or I didn't do minutia, because I do now. but it can feel annoying. It can feel uncomfortable. It can feel like something you don't want to do. And the reason it feels like something you don't want to do is because it's growing and you're getting outside of your comfort zone. You're moving up the ladder. You're changing. So with the receipts, show the receipts. Write it down. Record the facts of, if you're trying to lose weight, how this day you were this much and this week you were this much and this is what you ate. Record those things. Have that information. And what's very important about that is when you have that information, you're not trying to prove it to anybody, but you have the information right in front of your face. And you can also say, hey, I have all of this information. I have these receipts. How can I modify my behavior to improve, what I'm seeing? And all of that came from me just watching these two guys and trying to decide, well, wow, so people see me talking all this, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, or I'm going to be a professional poker player in 4.5 years. But how do they know, or I know, that that's true? Well, I have the receipts. I spend, and this is just words, but I can show you. I spend hours upon hours training a week. I spend hours upon hours playing poker. I spend hours upon hours researching and studying. I spend hours upon hours strategizing. So I have the receipts. It's not just me saying I'm going to be a poker player. I think this is lost on people that just want to do the affirmation part of change. I'm going to be a professional poker player in 4.5 years. If I don't back it up with action, if I don't back it up with receipts, then why believe in myself, let alone have other people believe in me? And while I think that you don't need other people's approval to move ahead to do the possible, you do need support. You do need people to support you. It's a human thing where you need people to say, my biggest supporters, for instance, are my fiance and my sister, my daughter, my best friend. These are my biggest supporters. And when they say, I can do it even when I'm down in that valley, and my mom, when I'm down in that valley, that's something that's, you can't pay for that, right? To get that kind of support. So those people need to see, even though they believe in you, at some point, the receipts. And that's what it's and also on top of that, these other people around you who are not your supporters, who are just kind of watching, they're like spectators. They can't, maybe your support can say, hey, I know you, I believe you. I don't see a lot of motion, but I know what you're doing. I know you're going to be a professional poker player in 4 years and 3 months. I know that's going to happen, Ted. But those people that are spectators, that, your next door neighbor or someone else that is a spectator, does not get, what you're saying. What you're saying means very little to them. It's like, oh, well, I hear this from salespeople. I hear this from people that lie. I hear this from manipulators. I hear this from all other people. So what they need to see is the receipts. So an example of this is, when I was first becoming a single father and adopting conscious discipline and all of those things, I used to walk my children to school every single day, a mile there, a mile back, to and fro, other neighborhood kids. And, I did this every single day. So I could be seen on the street walking. This isn't why I did it, but I quickly realized when I went to get a haircut and, my hairdresser was like, hey, aren't you the guy who walks his kids down the street every day? Or an Uber guy was like, I saw you walking your kids. I think that's so great. So they were seeing the receipts. They were seeing what I was actually doing. Now, words have a very, very powerful way of getting a person to be inspired, but they're not going to keep the attention. And that's mostly because I can't tell you things and you just believe me. If you believe me, then it says a lot about our relationship. Number one, you know me really well and you know that when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Or number two, you follow other people other than just me blindly. And I'm sorry if that's real, but that's real. And I had to learn that lesson myself. Like, I followed people blindly a lot. So instead, what needs to happen is my behavior, the receipts, have to line up with my words. And so getting back to this poker thing, I don't know. I don't know the guy who said, this is how he is. I don't know him. I don't know if he behaves that way. And I don't know this guy who says he has all this evidence, but has yet to present it. So if I have the evidence, that's one thing. Or if I actually saw this behavior on a daily basis, then I could, make an educated decision. And so all of that, again, lets me know what the guy who doesn't know me, he's a spectator, what the social workers, what the, school teachers, what the administrators, what people that view me think of that, right? That okay, they need to see it. And when they see it, they understand it. And that's really powerful. It's a huge enlightenment to me, because I didn't realize that. And now I know that. So now I can put myself in their shoes. I can have empathy for them. And I can think, oh, I'm going to zip my lip. I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing. I'm just going to do it. So we'll end this with Nike's slogan, just do it. Show the receipts. Hey guys, thanks so much for, taking the time. I know it's been 16 minutes. Please like, subscribe, share your comments, whatever. Ask me for future topics. And once again, I am Mr. Possible, and I'm going to show you the receipts. Have a good day.